Howdy, howdy, comic book fans. I've got ISOM number 3. I ordered the cover B, and I'm going to do my review. I got some positive feedback on how I did my last review, so we're going to do it in 3 phases. Number 1, don't open the book, and let's just talk about my general impressions. Number 2, open up the first few pages, take a look at some of the interiors, and talk a little bit more about the story and the plot, minor spoilers possibly. And then number 3, go heavy, look at all of the book, and give a full detailed review. Now, starting with my impressions of ISOM, and people are very surprised about this, but I just don't see what others see in ISOM. It's out of all the Rippaverse books, ISOM is my least favorite. I think that the story is just kind of a lot. It's all over the place. It seems to be a story of a bunch of side quests, and there is no direct line for ISOM's story. So I think the character has a lot going for him, but the way that his story is being told in the ill-advised arc is just kind of all over the place. It's pretty hard to follow. The only other person that I've heard really say this that's not like a strict hater and detractor is John's Longbox, and I think I'm seeing the same thing he's seeing. So I think it has a lot of potential. I'm not giving up on ISOM. In fact, I even got with this campaign, I got the hat because I love the horseman hat. I just like that embroidered, thick embroidered, patch. It's not even a patch. I don't know what you call it. But anyways, I like that style. And I like the baseball cap style too. I could do without the ISOM hat. To me, it reminds me of those tattoos that don't look very good, but that's fine. Anyways, so I'm in on the character. The stories itself, I talk about this in my other comic book reviews. As long as I think there's potential, and as long as I think as long as the character itself is something I enjoy, I can deal with a below par story. I talk about that with a lot of Marvel books, actually. I like the idea of the character more than the story that's being told with it, and I still can enjoy it. So my overall review of ISOM number 3, for me, I'm gonna give it, I think, a 6 out of 10. It is just, I'm gonna go 7, because if I looked at it on a grading scale, it'd be like, this is not failing, but it's pretty close. Just because it's a lot. There's a lot in here that feels like side quests, and I'll get into that when I open the book. And for me, it was just a little too disjointed. There wasn't a common through line. There was also a couple of things that came up that just seemed out of left field that I think could have been set up more. I think Eric's doing a lot of Rippaverse setup with ISOM, but there's just a little too much, I hate to say it, it's a little too much mystery boxing for me. It comes across that way, where there's some things set up, but it's not really explained, and you'll maybe find out about it later. And I think number 3 takes that way too far. So before I open the book, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10, and really the art is what's gonna bring a lot of those points in it too. So let's look at the minor spoilers and get into some of the interiors here. Now, I've also explained that, my favorite art style is that classic flat art style like you see in newsprint. And all of the Rippaverse books are highly digital, I think the coloring is very soft. And I think this book especially could do with some more just classic traditional coloring. And so some of that really kind of just, it's not my style. You see like the wolf here, I think it just needs to be, I don't know, I'm not an artist, so I inked deeper or less of this whiteness that kind of just blends everything together. Just that constant coloring blend. It's just not my style. It's a little too soft, and I think if we can go harder, grittier on the art, that would be fantastic. And I believe Gabe Al-Taib colored issue 1, and I liked his coloring a little bit more. It's not, he's doing digital too, but it was just a little bit harder. I hope I'm using the right words. I hope I'm getting this off. The action scenes are great. I think the action scenes are really good. This is one of those cases though, and I won't go too far past this. This is one of those cases though where there's like we just jumped to a side quest, and we have Gooding talking to Bloodruth, and then Bloodruth does a spell to figure out kind of what they're dealing with in issue 2, and it kind of she's kind of like, oh, they weren't starved, they were murdered, and then she's like, oh my gosh, no way, and then it just kind of ends like Well, I mean, the ISOM shows up, but it doesn't, there's no payoff. So, it's like she's seeing something, but you don't really know what it is. It's more open-endedness. It's just these constant, you get 3-page chapters. There's ISOM with Bloodruth, and then it just kind of kicks off over to, what's his name? The Merc owner guy, the bad guy, I can't remember his name. It jumps over to him trying to buy this country club, and it gives a little bit of, characterization to him, I guess, but then it jumps. So there's just a lot of jumping around. You can see there was like within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, within 13 pages, there's 4 scenes. So that's just a lot. It took me 2 reads to kind of really understand what was going on. And like I said, the characters are really good. I'm really enjoying the characters, especially because in this one, you get a little bit of a hint as to how ISOM's getting his powers. And if you were really paying attention in issue 1, you got a hint of it and kind of confirmed it in issue 2. And they don't spell it out, but they give you enough to where it's like, yeah, I think this is how his powers work. I also really, really liked the origin of his powers. It's a 1 panel, maybe even blink and you miss it, of how he got his powers, how that works. And I really like that idea. So again, it's like that whole, I like the idea of the character more than the story that he's in. So you can see the art is, your classic, modern art style here, but it works. It works. The letters are good. The pages are good. I don't remember too many splash pages in this one, but I remember there was one towards the end, which I'm not going to show. That really like dropped my jaw, so to speak. The action here was good. I really like this scene here. Dad, old man strength, stepping up, taking down those bad guys there. So looking into it, you can see a little bit of there. This is a lot of just quick paced stories, and some of it just feels like side quests to me. And I want to see a little bit more of a through line in my stories here. Like even in Alpha Core, when you step aside for a side quest, so to speak, or a side story in Alpha Core, it still has something to do with the main story, and there's an obvious connection. And I'm not a smart reader. I'm not a long time, I've been reading comics since 2012, so I'm not as well seasoned. So if there's something that I'm missing as far as like the way comic storytelling does, that's on me. I'm the same age as Eric, and he might be telling a story in a way that I just haven't come to learn. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But the art, is still really good. I think it's Cliff Richards. Is that right? Who's doing it? Yeah, Cliff Richards. Loving all the stuff that he's doing. I think the pencil work is really good in this. And, it does resolve the story with, man, why can I not remember the villain's name? Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. The story does resolve. I think it resolves a little quick, in which we'll get into when we get to the heavy spoilers in a second. But overall, if you enjoyed ISOM 1 and 2, you will enjoy 3. I think actually the first one is still my favorite of them. This one is thicker, but again, thicker I don't think means better, because there's just a lot in here that I don't know if it needed to be in here to tell the story. So, again, 7 out of 10. And a lot of it's going to be that we get the wrap up. There's some really great action scenes. I think the action scenes are well directed. They're well written. They're obviously well drawn. It's just that in between stuff, it just gets a little too much talky. And it was the same issue that I had reading Goody Inc. Where, I love Mike Baron. He's one of my favorites. I'm collecting Baron, Punisher, and a lot of stuff that he's doing. I'm back to Nexus Omnibus. But for some reason, his Gooding just didn't hit with me. And I think it was just a lot of that, just quick scenes, a lot of talking. And it didn't work as well as the other books for me. But, we're all here to enjoy some comics, and I still enjoyed this one. I tell you what, the bad guy, Lepredo, he grew on me. I didn't care for him on the first read through, but then the second read through, I was like, okay, no, he's growing on me, and I'll show you what he looks like here in the heavy spoilers. So, all right, now I'm going to go into the open book. If you don't want to see the open book, if you haven't read it yet, click away. because we're going to go into the book. I won't go page by page, obviously, but I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics. So if you read the book and you want to see what I think about it and, argue in the comments or whatever, in the good classic comic book shop arguments, we can absolutely do that. I think we need more of that on YouTube, build more of a discussion platform on YouTube and X and all that. So let me go to Lepredo. I really, really loved, and now I'm even saying loved, I really enjoyed Lepredo. So when he first shows up, this is again where I was talking about some of the setup here. So Lepredo is showing up at Projexis to obviously steal that crystal, the Kryptonite style crystal that's at the end of the book, and it never shows that here. And so am I reading that wrong, or am I misinterpreting that? Because at the end of the book, he just shows up with the crystal, or he shows up with the team that has the crystal, right? So I think he's stealing that crystal here, and I love that too. By the way, like I was like, oh wait, let me see that again. And he throws the car at the helicopter. I thought that was really cool. So when I first read it, I thought I was like, okay, it's just another. At first, I thought it was like a Killer Croc kind of thing with a tongue power, but he's almost manipulating his tongue like Venom, and so he's got a little bit of Killer Croc meets Venom vibes, and I thought that was cool. We get Max Salient. I think this is interesting. So he's kind of like Lepredo, but he took the good path. Lepredo took the bad path, kind of thing, kind of story, which I think there's something there. And then there's just like a quick boom. He turns his head back and Lepredo's gone. So I guess that's fine. But yeah. Anyways. Yeah, we still got more of this mystery boxing with. Not Silman, what's his name? His friend's name. We don't know what this is. This is obviously a long play, but again, does it belong in this book? I don't know. I almost think like this is better suited for a webtoon, not a webtoon, web comic, or maybe like a backstory. Like maybe this should be in the back. So yeah. And then here we get a little bit. This was interesting. Like I was like, what is that? And the second read through, I realized it's hailing. So I thought that was an interesting touch there. So yeah, the art, the action here just gets really good. And then we have the final showdown at the end, which was pretty cool. For some reason, ISOM's face in this one seems softer too, which I didn't care for. Like this is a good face rendering here. But here towards the end, it just gets too soft. Like his nose grows a little bit. I don't know. It's just like he's fine. He's fine. This was wild. This little scene here, but he gets just a little too soft. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the coloring or just the pencils on the face. I just feel like all the faces, really, even that one, it's a little too soft. I don't know. It's a little too toned down. There was a couple other panels here where I thought that too. I love that running pose right there. I think my trainer called it a lightning pose. Like when you're stretching, he says, get that lightning pose. I always like that when that's well drawn. And then this is where I was talking about like the Lepredo is kind of like a Killer Croc meets Venom. And I know people don't like doing those comparisons, but that's just how my brain works. And so he's using his tongue powers there. And then ISOM grabs it and he's like, what? So that was pretty cool. And his tongue can grow, obviously, I guess, here. And this whole last action, here's the splash page. I thought that was cool. This whole last section here, I don't know, it just felt a little rushed. And there's that crystal, which I had to read through twice again, just to understand kind of what's happening here. And also the powers that are coming up. And then this guy here, a little, not Deus Ex Machina, but again, random. This one didn't have any setup. And so, I don't know, I could have used, if we're gonna go on a side quest, is there something where we learn that he really got, gypped or whatever? I don't know, it seems like maybe this should have been 4 issues instead of 3 issues. It could have used a little bit more setup here. The way it ends though, we get a little bit more focus on, like, look at that, now Darren Fontano. Hey, there it is, there's the name. Fontano's face, it gets a little too soft. Just a little inconsistent on the face renderings. Like, this looks good, and this one gets a little too soft. So I don't know if that's timing. I don't think it's timing though, because they're not rushing anything. If you understand what I'm trying to say, God bless you, because I can't even barely understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, there you go. Another soft face draw there. So, yeah. Anyways, that last showdown, I liked it a lot better on the second read than the first read. Because again, the first read, I'm just going back and forth. And then you get some emotional closure here. This was a little, I think a more veteran writer would have referenced this a little bit more in the past pages. So this wasn't just out of nowhere. Was there an editor's note? I can't remember, where they say like, oh, this happened in ISOM 2. Yeah, see ISOM 2. Which some of these editor notes, they have the see ISOM 2, but there is no asterisk in the dialogue. So usually it's like, why didn't you save her? Asterisk, and then see ISOM 2. But there is no asterisk, it just says see ISOM 2. So I don't think that's an error, because it does that again. And I think it's just their in-house markup of how they do that. But we get some closure a little bit on, how he feels and how he's still dealing with the fallout from not being able to save that girl. And then we get a little like teaser for what's coming up. We're gonna have, what was his name? Shadrach? Something like that. So anyways, hey, Fontano was right there on the cover. And of course I got the cover B. I love the classic covers. I'm getting all the cover Bs. I even get these on invariants that I get from the comic shop. I just like that classic. It was an era I didn't get to live through, and now I get to live through it a little bit vicariously through these variant covers. So, yeah, like I said, the action's good, the characterization's good. I really like Silman's, the Mr. and Mrs. Silman, Avery's parents. I think that's a very interesting thing there. And this is another one, when I read through my second time, and this is the last scene I'll critique here. And by all means, I'm not a comic critic, I'm just a reader. When we get many years ago and we get Avery worked at a pawn shop, and he gets to go for a pick and get something really good, basically. I think it's probably like a #1 comic book or something very valuable. He brings it back to his boss. And his boss is like, hey, you know what? You can't. You need to go places, and you can't. There's only so much. I'm holding you back, kind of thing. And so he says, take this and go. And that's. And then he says, what are you gonna do with the money? And he's like, I'm gonna buy some land. And that's it. It's just a little side story. And again, does it belong in the book? I don't think so. I think it's a nice little backstory, webtoon maybe, but we get the story of how Avery got funding for his ranch. Is there something I'm missing here? I don't. And then also I thought that was interesting where he says, here's your first lesson. Don't be too quick to show off your picks to anyone except potential buyers. Been there, done that. That's a good lesson. So, yeah, I don't think there was anything too much else that I wanted to kind of discuss here. What did you think of Lepredo? I think Lepredo's going to be, love him or hate him. Love him or hate him. But I started off on the hate spectrum, and now I'm like, I think it's actually kind of a cool character. I would love to see an origin story of these guys, maybe in a Rippaverse, Max Salient and Lepredo origin story. That'd be pretty interesting. That could almost be like a Professor X and Magneto origin, where they were friends, brothers, cousins, whatever, and they just choose to go off on two different paths. Max chooses to focus on himself and improve himself and take responsibility for, what happened in his life or being an accept. And Lepredo, granted, he has it much worse because he just looks like a giant freaking lizard. So that's harder to deal with. I understand that. But he still doesn't take responsibility for it and becomes a bad guy. He goes down the bad path. So I do like that setup. I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, is it passable? Yeah. Would I recommend it? Obviously within ISOM 1, 2, and 3. I would, I wouldn't blindly recommend it. I would want to say what kind of stories do you like? What interests you? And, I might recommend it if I think that someone would enjoy it, but as a blind recommendation, blind recommendations for me, Alpha Core is a blind recommendation. I don't care who you are. That's a great book. That is a fun book. Horseman, if you like action, gritty stuff. Zaynlin, if you like space stuff. Dirty Deeds, if you like space stuff too. Yaira, Yaira might be a blind recommendation too. That's a lot of fun too. But I still don't think it's a blind recommendation. I think I'd want to know like if you would like this kind of character, as well as the complexity, I think, of the story. And complexity is not always a good thing. So that is my ISOM review. Again, this is the character or the series that I'm enjoying the least of the Rippaverse. But you know what? It used to be a bad Marvel movie. It's still a good movie. I don't know if we're there yet with the Rippaverse books, but definitely Gooding, I thought, like, even though I didn't like it, it's still better than anything else the mainstream's putting out. So yeah, 7 out of 10. I think it's just passable for me, but you know, I don't think I'm going to read it again unless there's something that comes up that makes me want to read it again. All that said, I'm still looking forward to Norfolka that's coming out. Yaira 3, I think, is going to start shipping this week. So this doesn't sour me at all on Rippaverse. It's just something that I just didn't care for. And I think that's the kind of review that Eric and the team appreciate. Let's just be honest. And, you know, this is for readers, and I read it and I thought it was just okay. So thank you guys for watching. You know, by the way, prove that you're not a Rippatard by commenting down below something that isn't criticizing my character or calling me funny names. But go ahead and subscribe, because I'm going to be reviewing. I want to go through the Dokumon cards. I got the set 4. I really enjoyed set 4. I thought that was really cool. So I will review those maybe next week. And I also got a couple shirts maybe I'll show off as well. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.